Hello everyone! It's already been a week since Gang Gamchan appeared in the game, and during this time enough info has piled up to draw some conclusions about him. Today in the video I'll briefly explain how his healing works, we'll look at various tests I've prepared, check out real battle reports that players from 2359 kindly shared with me, decide whether Gang Gamchan should be a primary commander, because it's not that obvious due to his debuff. And of course answer the main question, is he worth spending gold heads on, or can you skip him? The video turned out really packed and interesting. I tried to figure out everything in detail. I had to do a lot of tests, and after the message from Lilith even redo some of them. So I'm just asking you to drop a like on this video and I wish you a great watch. I'm not going to break down every skill again. If you're interested, you can check out my previous video. Right now, I'll just give you clarity on his healing and explain how it works. From the previous video, we know that we get 25% healing of the combo attack damage dealt, but that's only if the healing falls under the Star Blessed effect from the active skill, which increases the healing by 150% for 5 seconds. And that's exactly how it works. And in the Gang Gamchan Achilles pair, we get 10% healing of the combo attack damage dealt from Gang Gamchan and 25% from Achilles. It works this way because increases the healing by 150%, only activates on next turn after the skill is used. If we make Achilles the primary commander, then in most cases we won't have increases the healing by 150%. The only exception is Duels. There, we managed to land Achilles' skill within the 5 seconds after Gang Gamchan's active skill. But in Murder Ball, things look different, and we'll very rarely get increases the healing by 150% if Achilles is the primary. To sum it up, overall, we get more healing when Gang Gamchan is primary and less when he's secondary. But healing isn't the only reason we use Gang Gamchan, so it's too early to say whether he should be primary or secondary. We'll get back to this question later, but for now, let's take a look at the results of the 1 versus 1 duel tests. I ran the tests in Custom Match Osiris in balanced mode with KVK buffs. Here are Gang Gamchan's talents and his gear. Achilles and Arthur have the same setup. First, let's look at the cavalry duel 1 versus 1 to find the best cavalry duel march. Gang Gamchan, Achilles versus Achilles, Gang Gamchan. Remember I told you that in duel format increases the healing by 150% will work even if Gang Gamchan is secondary. That's exactly why there isn't a big difference in who's primary. But Gang Gamchan as primary is the more reliable option, so I chose him. And based on all the test results, we can conclude that Gang Gamchan Achilles is the best cavalry duel march. I also did tests against archers and infantry. Against archers, no comments, it's just a wipeout. The results against infantry look impressive too, because Arthur Achilles versus infantry used to be absolutely terrible, and now it even looks like a fair fight, especially if you've got good iconic equipment. I think we're done with the duels, so now let's talk about a really interesting topic, the Gang Gamchan debuff. Whenever we deals combo attack damage to a field troop has a 30% chance to reduce the target's defense by 40% for 5 seconds. We can apply this debuff to up to 3 targets per turn. This is an insanely strong and valuable debuff, and in my opinion, it's a lot more valuable than his healing. And I didn't just compare the debuff to the healing for no reason. Whether you use Gang Gamchan as primary or secondary will decide which one works better, the healing or the debuff. Maybe it's not fully clear yet, so let's look at the tests I prepared. The tests were done with the butterfly effect. This is a 1 versus 5 test, but on the enemy side, not all marches are full, only one of them. But we don't really care about the heavy wounded trade here. What matters is how many times the 40% defense debuff activated. To calculate this, I checked every report and counted how many times the debuff triggered and on which turn. And here, you can already see the final data. And the best result came from the Achilles Gang Gamchan march. The debuff activated in 37.80% of turns. And that's not random. If Gang Gamchan is primary, he has a chance to activate the debuff first, which means only one target gets it. If Achilles is primary, then most of the time the debuff procs on him, and since he has area damage, we have a chance to get more debuff activations. I also did another test, this time 1 versus 3, with all enemy marches full. And again, Achilles primary showed the best result. Please note that these results are from a duel format, where primary and secondary commanders hit skill about the same number of times, but in Murder Ball we have to reposition a lot, and primary will hit skill noticeably more than secondary. That's exactly why we prefer to use area damage commanders as primary. What I'm saying is that in Murder Ball, the difference between primary and secondary, Gang Gamchan, will be even bigger in terms of debuff activations. To sum it up, we get more debuff activations when Achilles is primary, and also more damage since an area damage commander on primary is simply more effective in Murder Ball. I also want to show some reports shared with me by the players of Kingdom 2359. Huge thanks to them. Let's first look at the reports where Gang Gamchan is primary. Players note that the enemy runs away to a greater extent, but later we will compare this with other marches. But honestly, it's impressive. He puts out great numbers. Notice how he looks compared to other marches. He looks absolutely great. And here we already have Achilles as primary, and the reports are also amazing. Again, look at how he compares to the other marches. He's literally one of the best. The player who sent these reports tested different ways of using Gang Gamchan, including pairing him with Arthur, while Achilles was paired with Philip. Also a very interesting combo, because Arthur has a chance to deal combo attack damage from the very first seconds of the fight, thanks to his expertise skill, which means a chance to trigger the debuff, even though it's without area damage. That's very valuable, but also a downside, because it interferes with applying the debuff through Arthur's active skill, where the damage hits 3 targets. To summarize, the Arthur-Gang Gamchan pair is definitely an interesting option, but I feel like Achilles fits this role better. With Achilles, we'll apply the debuff more often thanks to his area damage, and that's definitely a plus. Also worth noting, Gang Gamchan's healing improves the effectiveness of Achilles' third skill, because the more troops he has, the more damage he deals. And overall, their skills complement each other really well. I collected reports for all versions of Gang Gamchan pairs, so you can compare them against the other marches. Huge thanks again to the players of Kingdom 2359 for sharing the reports. Truly valuable. I also did tests in 5 versus 5 format, and I think you'll be interested in those too. But please note that these specific tests were done with the default checkbox turned on, meaning the 100% damage boost was active. Based on the results, the march with Achilles as primary won. And just for fun, I did a test of 1 march versus 9, with all enemy marches at 50,000 troops each. We already did a similar test for Arthur Achilles, so now we can see what difference Gang Gamchan's healing makes in this kind of situation. And yeah, it didn't make things dramatically better, but we clearly survived longer than last time with a similar trade. That's everything I wanted to talk about, so let's wrap this up. I can say with full confidence that if you play with just 1 cavalry march, you can skip him and keep running Arthur Achilles. But if you play with 2 or more cavalry marches, then you definitely can't ignore him. Gang Gamchan isn't better than Achilles and not even better than Arthur, but he's not far behind them, and he's genuinely good. We all saw that when we looked at his combat reports. His healing is really amazing, making him a very tanky commander. Some players noticed that marches with Gang Gamchan bring in fewer heavily wounded compared to other marches. It's hard for me to say how accurate or consistent that is, but looking through other people's reports, I did notice the same thing. His healing also has its downsides. When we fight in Murder Ball, all our marches die off at roughly the same pace, but the march with Gang Gamchan survives longer and ends up being the last one standing. That doesn't really work in our favor because we're not going to continue fighting with just 1 march, and sometimes it's easier to let it die off and take the bad report. I've already said plenty about his debuff. It's simply amazing. And because of that debuff, I recommend using Gang Gamchan as secondary and Achilles as primary. In short, the debuff will trigger noticeably more often that way, and will deal more damage because area damage commanders are more effective in the primary slot, since in Murder Ball, the primary commander fires off active skills more frequently. When Achilles is primary, accessories like Ring of Doom and some level 5 iconic equipment will also proc more often. To summarize, if you want more damage, make Gang Gamchan secondary. If you want more tankiness, thanks to the healing, put him as primary. Personally, I prefer more damage. That's all. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Thanks for watching.